Hello friends, welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're making chicken biscuits. So I've cut up 4 breasts, which I've cut long ways through them, sometimes in half or maybe even to thirds, so I will have plenty of chicken to do what I'm doing here. And then in a bowl I'm adding an egg, which I've broken up. Then I'm adding in at least a half a cup or more, maybe in 3/4 a cup of buttermilk, depending on how much chicken you have. And then a little hot sauce. Now, the hot sauce is not intended to make this terribly hot. It's just meant to give it some flavor. So once this is all in the bowl, we want to go ahead and mix that up. Now, once this completely mixed through, we want to go ahead to our plate and add a cup of flour and about 1/4 of a cup of Italian breadcrumbs, which has flavoring seasoning in it from Italian seasoning. And we're going to put this all together on our plate. Now to that we are adding 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon of adobe seasoning, and then about a half a teaspoon of paprika. And once this is all onto our plate, we're going to want to mix it up a bit because we want all the seasonings to be mixed through into the flour. So that way, when you drop your chicken into this, you're not just getting one seasoning all over one piece. We just want to keep mixing it back and forth until it looks like all the colors have blended together. Now, with what I have here breading wise for this, the flour and all the others, it's going to be enough to do the chicken that I have, which is basically the cut up 4 pieces of breast. So what we're going to do is take 1 piece of chicken, dunk it into the batter mixture, the buttermilk and all, and then bring it over to the flour and flip it back and forth a couple times to make sure we get it coated. Once it is coated, we're going to return this back into the buttermilk again, get it wet, and then do it again. So we're basically double breading the chicken. And then once it's done, you can set this to the side and move on to the next piece. And it's simply just dip, bread, dip, bread. And once it's done, continue setting them onto your plate that are finished. And once we've done them all, then we're going to fry them. Now the good thing with mixing the seasoning through the flour the way we did, it's going to get onto all the pieces, it's going to be mixed through evenly, and you're not going to have one piece that you bite into and it's going to have a lot of salt or whatever on it. This is just going to be a really good mix of everything. So as I said, keep going until you have each piece completely breaded. And then when you're done, we're going to put oil into a large pan, and you can probably fit anywhere from 3 to 4 pieces in your pan at a time. We're going to cook this on at least medium to high, and you're going to turn this several times during the time that it's cooking. And it doesn't really take a very long time to fry these pieces of chicken. We're talking, like several minutes on each side. You can tell that they're getting done because it will start be like a golden brownish look all over the outer parts of it, and that's when you know you're nearing your end. And as you keep going, the darkness will keep going, like it'll get more golden, it'll get more brown, it'll be there, and it's very easy to tell when these are done. But I would cook them for at least 6 or 7 minutes on each side before I start worrying about them being done. And when they are getting done, they're going to look something like what you're seeing on the screen right now. And now we're going to make biscuits. This is not really a hard process as long as you follow the steps carefully. We're going to start out with a pan which we're going to coat with aluminum foil and spray it with non-stick cooking spray so that way these things do not stick. And into a large mixing bowl, we're going to put 2 cups of flour. And then we're going to add a whole stick of butter cut up into pieces. And we're going to take a fork and break up the butter into the flour. This is a process that's kind of hard to do it sometimes because you're going to have to keep working the butter until you break it up to where it's small pieces, just a little bigger than like a big piece of rice or something, because we don't want too much butter in one place, but we want it to go through all the biscuits. So you're going to take a fork and work your way through from piece to piece of the butter until you break it into the flour. You could use this with a cutter or whatever. I use a fork because it's just a little easier for me to control in a bowl, and it does what I want it to. Now we are going to add 1 cup of buttermilk because this is going to give these biscuits a great taste. And once we get that in there, then we are going to add 1 tablespoon of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of baking soda, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of sugar. And once all of this is in, we are going to stir and mix this up. So keep going with your fork, work the sides, pull everything from the bottom, and keep going. Now, if your mixture seems a little dry and it's not really sticking together, you can add more buttermilk. Because as I was doing this, I discovered mine needed a little bit more, and I added some because I think I had a little extra flour in it. So once you get it in and you get it right, your consistency should be something like this. And you're going to go and mix it. It's not going to be too wet, but it's not going to be dry either. You want this to stick together. Now you're going to need a cutting board and a biscuit cutter. Put some flour onto your board, and we're going to bring this out a bit at a time because we're going to cut the biscuits while they're here. So as you're bringing out the dough, you need to actually think about the fact that you need to preheat your oven to 425 degrees, maybe 430, depending on how warm your oven gets. And we're going to go ahead and fold these pieces of dough into our floured surface and fold them over and over until we actually get them to a good solid state to where we can actually cut them with our biscuit cutter. I would leave them at least a decent thickness, so you're going to actually have over a 1/2 inch thickness on these biscuits, so that way they rise up pretty decently. And you're going to go through and cut them 1 or 2 at a time, and then bring more of the dough out onto the surface and work it into the bits that you have left over. So this way you can keep using the old bits without them drying out, and just keep folding it over and over. Put a little bit of flour on top if it's sticking to your fingers, and keep turning it until you've got them completely done. So as you can see, I have folded these kind of long so that way when I cut them, there's no problem with actually making my way through the biscuits and having at least 2 of them on each stack. And again, fold over your dough and then add some more to it so that way it doesn't dry out. And just, if you have to, put a little flour on top, fold it over until you get this flat and like totally sealed together to where you can actually cut again. Now I will go through and do this until I've used up all the dough I had. Usually with what I just did, I can get anywhere from like 9 to 10 biscuits. So there's a decent amount in here. Just keep working it, adding a little flour on top, and keep going until you've used up all of it. Because usually at the end of when I've gotten my 9 biscuits or so, 10 biscuits, there's just a little bit of the dough left over. And then you can basically just ball that up and make it into just a throwaway biscuit on the side, which, you know, I usually do that and feed it to the dog, but it's something that, you know, you're going to get a decent amount of these out. So keep going, keep cutting until you've gotten them all done. And then on our pan that we already sprayed, we're going to line the biscuits up like this and get them ready for the oven. And when they come back, they'll look something like this. Now, you're going to need to take some melted butter and go over the tops of them, because this helps clean up any extra flour which might be on top of it, but also gives them a really golden appearance. So go ahead and work your way through each one, and after they set for a few minutes, then you're ready to cut and use. You can actually add whatever you like to these. So it always amazes me when you put the butter on top how much the color of the biscuits change. And when you're done, this is what it looks like. And this is really wonderful to eat. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And I hope you'll check out my cookbook, which is available on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide. Have a great day.